The cargo hauler Distant Mercy drifted through the Kelmar corridor, its engines humming a low rhythm against the silence of space. Captain Vexlar of the Zorati Empire stood on the bridge, his 4 eyes scanning the viewport with practiced boredom. Another routine patrol. Another empty sector of space where nothing ever happened. "Captain, we have debris ahead," his sensor officer chirped, mandibles clicking nervously. Vexlar's interest sparked. Debris meant salvage. Salvage meant profit. Scan it. The sensor array painted a picture across the holographic display. A small craft, primitive by galactic standards, torn apart by what looked like a reactor failure. The design was unfamiliar. Vexlar leaned forward, his scaled hand gripping the command rail. "Life signs?" he asked. "One. Faint. In an escape pod." Vexlar's eyes widened. Unknown species meant even greater profit. The galactic black market paid handsomely for exotic specimens. "Retrieve it. Carefully." The tractor beam engaged, pulling the damaged pod into the cargo bay. Vexlar descended with his security team, weapons drawn, not knowing what to expect. When the pod door hissed open, releasing a cloud of vapor, they all stepped back. Inside was a child. A small, fragile thing with pale skin, dark hair, and only 2 eyes. It wore a tattered blue suit with strange symbols. The child was unconscious, breathing shallowly. Vexlar had never seen anything like it. "What species?" one guard asked. "Unknown," Vexlar replied, his translator struggling with the symbols on the child's suit. It finally produced a word: human. "Earth. Take it to the holding cell. Keep it alive. We'll present it to the Emperor." The child was carried away, limp and helpless. Vexlar smiled. This discovery would make him rich beyond measure. 3 days later, the child woke up. Her name was Maya. She was 8 years old. She remembered the explosion that killed her parents during their exploration mission. She remembered the cold of space. She remembered the fear. Now she sat in a cell made of smooth metal, staring at creatures that looked like a nightmare. Vexlar approached the energy barrier separating them. "Do you understand me, human?" Maya looked up, tears streaking her face. "Where are my parents?" The translator worked perfectly. Vexlar's expression softened slightly. Death was universal. "They are gone. You are alone. But you are valuable. Cooperate and you will be treated well." Maya said nothing. She pulled her knees to her chest and looked away. The Distant Mercy arrived at Zorath Prime 3 weeks later. The capital world gleamed like a jewel, covered in crystalline towers and vast floating cities. Maya was transferred to the Imperial Palace, a structure so massive it could be seen from orbit. Emperor Thalan sat on his throne, a being of immense age and power. His species had ruled the galactic core for 10,000 years. When Maya was brought before him in chains, he studied her with cold curiosity. "This is the human?" His voice boomed through the throne room. "Yes, Majesty," Vexlar bowed low. "The only survivor of a primitive exploration vessel." "Primitive?" Thalan laughed, a sound like grinding stone. "Look at her. Weak. No armor plating. No natural weapons. No psionic abilities. How did such a species even reach space?" The assembled courtiers laughed with him. Maya stood silently, her small hands balled into fists. "Speak, child," Thalan commanded. "Tell me of your people." Maya raised her head. Despite her fear, despite her grief, something fierce burned in her eyes. "We're explorers. We're builders. We're survivors." "Survivors?" Thalan leaned forward. "You are the last of your crew. You are alone in a galaxy that will devour you. What can one human child possibly survive?" "Everything," Maya whispered. The word hung in the air. The courtiers stopped laughing. Something in her tone made them uneasy. Thalan waved a dismissive hand. "Take her to the education center. Let her learn our ways. Perhaps she can serve some use as a curiosity." Maya was led away to the lower levels of the palace, where alien children from 100 conquered worlds learned to serve the Empire. She was given a small room, food, and access to the Imperial database. The Zorati believed knowledge was power, but they also believed inferior species could never truly master it. They had no idea what they had just given a human. That night, Maya sat before a holographic terminal, her small fingers dancing across controls. The database opened before her like a flower. History, technology, military deployments, political structures. The Zorati had never restricted it because they never imagined anyone could use it against them. Maya began to learn. And as she learned, she began to plan. The galaxy had made its first mistake. It had underestimated humanity. It would be their last. 5 years passed on Zorith Prime. Maya grew from a frightened child into a young woman with eyes that burned with purpose. The education center housed 300 alien children, all from species conquered by the Zorati Empire. They learned mathematics, physics, engineering, and most importantly, obedience. Maya learned everything except the last part. Her instructor was Quellen, a six-limbed Kesari with a mind like a computational engine. He taught advanced physics to the gifted students, those who showed potential to serve the Empire's scientific divisions. Maya had been placed in his class after she solved a quantum mechanics problem that most adult Zorati struggled with. "Human Maya," Quellen said one morning, his translator collar humming. "Explain how a gravity well disrupts faster than light travel." The other students turned to watch. Maya stood, her posture straight, her voice clear. "FTL drives create a pocket of compressed spacetime. A gravity well creates a competing distortion. The two fields interact destructively, forcing a vessel back into normal space. However, if you modulate the drive frequency to match the gravity signature, you can theoretically maintain FTL within a stellar system." Silence filled the classroom. Quellen's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. "That is, theoretically correct. But impossible to implement. The computational power required would need a quantum matrix processor running parallel simulations," Maya interrupted. "Adjusting in real time. It's not impossible. Just difficult. You speak of technology that doesn't exist." Maya smiled slightly. "Yet." After class, Quellen stopped her. "You are extraordinary for your species. I have never encountered a human before, but your cognitive abilities rival the Zorati themselves. Perhaps exceed them in certain areas." "Thank you, instructor." "I am curious," Quellen continued, his tone cautious. "What happened to your species? We have searched the databases. Earth exists in Zorati records, but it is marked as a restricted world. Quarantined." Maya's expression hardened. "What do you mean, quarantined?" Quellen hesitated. "I should not have mentioned it. Forget I spoke." But Maya wouldn't forget. That night, she accessed the restricted Imperial database using a backdoor she discovered months ago. The Zorati encryption was sophisticated, but human pattern recognition was better. She'd learned their systems by watching, by studying how information flowed through the palace networks. What she found made her blood run cold. Earth was indeed quarantined. 30 years ago, the Zorati had detected human transmissions and dispatched a survey fleet. They found a planet of 7 billion humans, technologically primitive but advancing rapidly. The Empire had placed surveillance satellites in orbit and labeled humanity as a potential threat to be monitored and controlled. The quarantine was total. Any ship attempting to leave Earth's solar system was destroyed. Humanity had been caged without even knowing it. Maya's parents had been part of an unauthorized mission that somehow slipped past the blockade. They had been hunted down and eliminated. Her parents hadn't died in an accident. They'd been murdered. Maya's hands shook as she read the reports. The Zorati feared humanity. Not because humans were strong, but because they learned too quickly. They adapted too fast. They asked too many questions. Every species the Empire encountered had a natural ceiling to their development. Humanity had none. The Emperor himself had written the quarantine order: humanity must be contained until they can be properly subjugated. Their potential, if left unchecked, threatens the natural order. Maya closed the file. Her grief transformed into something else. Something burning. Something dangerous. She began to work in secret. The palace was filled with technology, and Maya had access to workshops where students built projects. She started small, constructing a quantum communicator from salvaged parts. It took her 6 months of careful work, hiding components, assembling pieces only when she was alone. Her plan was audacious. Insane. She would contact Earth. The quarantine satellites monitored traditional radio frequencies, but quantum entanglement communication operated on different principles. If she could establish a link, she could warn her people. Tell them the truth. Tell them they were prisoners. One night, when Zorith Prime's 3 moons aligned and the palace guards changed shifts, Maya activated her device. The quantum signal pierced through space, traveling instantaneously across thousands of light-years. She transmitted everything. The Zorati military positions. Their technology. Their weaknesses. Their fear. She sent one message: humanity, wake up. They're watching. They're afraid. And they should be. The transmission lasted 7 seconds before security systems detected the anomaly. Alarms shrieked through the palace. Maya destroyed the communicator and hid the pieces, but she was already being dragged from her room by armed guards. Emperor Thalen's fury was legendary. He had Maya brought before him in chains, surrounded by his entire court. "You have committed treason against the Empire," he roared. "You will be executed at dawn." Maya met his gaze without flinching. "You should have killed me when you found me. Now it's too late." "Too late." Dalan laughed bitterly. "You sent one transmission. Even if Earth received it, they are primitive. They have no fleet. No weapons that can threaten us." "You're wrong," Maya said quietly. "Humans don't need weapons to be dangerous. We need a reason. And you just gave 7 billion people the best reason ever." "Take her away," Dalan commanded. As Maya was led to the cells, she smiled. The message had been sent. Humanity would answer. And the galaxy would never be the same. The quantum signal reached Earth on a Tuesday morning. Dr. Sarah Chin sat in the SETI facility outside Beijing when her console erupted with data. For 40 years, humanity had listened to the stars, hoping for a message. They never expected one like this. The transmission was fragmentary but unmistakable. Star maps, technology schematics, military positions, and a voice young and desperate, "Humanity, wake up. They're watching." Within hours, every government on Earth received the same data. The United Nations convened an emergency session. Presidents and prime ministers gathered in a secure facility, staring at holographic displays showing alien warships orbiting their solar system's edge. "They've been watching us for 30 years? The American president asked, his face pale. "According to this data, yes," Dr. Chin replied. She stood before the assembly, her hands trembling. "These satellites have been destroying any vessel that attempts to leave our solar system. We've attributed those losses to mechanical failures. We were wrong." "Who sent this message?" the Russian premier demanded. "A human child," Dr. Chin said. "Designated as Maya Reeves, age 13, currently imprisoned on Zorath Prime, the capital of something called the Zorati Empire. Her parents were killed during an unauthorized deep space mission 5 years ago." The room erupted in angry voices. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone. Now they had their answer, and it was terrifying. The British Prime Minister raised her hand for silence. "What else does the data tell us?" Dr. Chin pulled up more files. "Everything. Their language, their technology, their political structure, their military capabilities, and most importantly, their weaknesses." "They have weaknesses?" the Chinese premier asked. "They all do," Dr. Chin said. "The Zorati Empire controls 200 star systems. They're ancient, powerful, and arrogant. They believe they're superior to every other species. That arrogance makes them predictable. Can we fight them?" Dr. Chin hesitated. "Not with conventional weapons. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. But this girl Maya, she included something else in her transmission. A message specifically for our scientists." She pulled up a file. Lines of mathematical equations filled the display, beautiful and complex. "This is a blueprint for a gravity well modulator. Technology that would let us maintain faster-than-light travel even within a stellar system. The Zorati believe it's impossible. Maya showed us how to make it work." The room fell silent. The implications were staggering. "She's giving us the keys to fight back," the American president said slowly. "But why would they imprison a child who could do this?" "Because they underestimated her," Dr. Chin said. "They underestimated all of us. The Zorati see humanity as primitive. They took this girl as a curiosity. They never imagined she could learn their secrets and turn them into weapons." The UN Secretary General stood, his voice heavy with authority. "Then we won't waste her sacrifice. We mobilize. Every nation. Every resource. We build a fleet. We develop these weapons. And we save that girl." "And then?" someone asked. The Secretary General's expression hardened. "Then we show the galaxy what happens when you cage humanity." The years that followed would become legend. Earth transformed overnight. Resources were pooled. Rivalries were set aside. Humanity had one goal: reach the stars and rescue one of their own. The International Space Coalition was formed. Shipyards appeared in orbit, massive construction platforms that built vessels day and night. Scientists worked around the clock, deciphering alien technology and improving it. Engineers developed weapons systems that combined human innovation with Zorati science. The breakthrough came from Dr. James Okonkwo in Lagos. Using Maya's equations, he built the first gravity well modulator. When tested, it allowed a ship to jump to FTL speed while still within Earth's orbit. Impossible by Zorati standards. Routine for humans who refused to accept limitations. Weapons were next. Humanity studied the Zorati military data and found gaps. Their shields were optimized against energy weapons but vulnerable to kinetic strikes. Their sensors couldn't track multiple targets simultaneously. Their faster-than-light drives needed time to recharge. Humans designed missiles that moved at relativistic speeds, turning mass into energy. They created decoy drones that multiplied exponentially, overwhelming enemy sensors. They built ships that could jump in and out of FTL combat in seconds, a tactic the Zorati had never conceived. 3 years after Maya's transmission, the first fleet was ready. 50 warships, built from human ingenuity and alien science. Each vessel was crewed by volunteers, men and women who understood they might not return. But they also understood that a child had saved their species. Now they would save her. Admiral Marcus Webb stood on the bridge of the flagship Indomitable, watching Earth shrink in the viewport. He was 60 years old, a career military officer who never imagined he'd command a starship. But here he was, leading humanity's first military expedition beyond the solar system. "All ships report ready," his XO announced. Marcus nodded. "Take us out." "Jump coordinates set for Zorith Prime." "Sir, that's the heart of enemy territory." Marcus smiled grimly. "I know. Let's go knock on their door." The first fleet vanished in flashes of blue light, leaving Earth behind. They traveled through the same corridors Maya's parents had died in, past the same quarantine satellites. But now those satellites exploded as human weapons tore them apart. The cage was broken. Humanity was free. And they were coming for blood. Maya had been in the execution cell for 3 years. Zorati justice moved slowly, deliberately. The Emperor wanted her to suffer, to watch as her hopes died. Every day, guards told her that Earth had ignored her message. That humanity had abandoned her. She never believed them. On the morning of her scheduled execution, alarms began to wail throughout the palace. Maya looked up from her meditation, her heart suddenly racing. The sound was one she'd heard in simulations during her studies. It was the alert for incoming hostile vessels. A guard rushed past her cell, his scales flushed with panic. "The perimeter defense stations are gone. Multiple unknown ships emerging from FTL." Maya stood, pressing her hands against the energy barrier. "They came," she whispered. "They actually came." Admiral Marcus Webb watched Zorith Prime grow larger on the viewscreen. The planet was surrounded by defense platforms, orbital stations bristling with weapons. The Zorati fleet was scrambling to respond, hundreds of ships moving to intercept. "They weren't expecting us," his tactical officer said. "Their formation is chaotic." "They've ruled for 10,000 years without challenge," Marcus replied. "They've forgotten how to respond to a real threat." Launched the swarm. The Indomitable released 10,000 microdrones, each no larger than a basketball. They scattered across space in an expanding cloud, each drone broadcasting fake signatures that mimicked full-sized warships. The Zorati sensors went insane trying to track thousands of targets simultaneously. "Their targeting systems are overloaded," the tactical officer reported. "They're firing blindly." "Now," Marcus commanded. "All ships full burn. Get us to that planet." The first fleet accelerated, their gravity well modulators allowing them to maintain FTL speed even in Zorith Prime's stellar system. They covered in minutes what should have taken hours. Zorati ships fired, but their weapons couldn't lock onto targets moving in impossible ways. A human destroyer took a direct hit, its shields failing, hull breaching. But even as it died, it launched a relativistic missile that struck a Zorati battleship with the force of a small nuclear weapon. The battleship split in half, debris spinning into space. "We're not stopping," Marcus announced over the fleet channel. "All ships execute drop protocol." It was a tactic stolen from history, from ancient paratroopers who jumped behind enemy lines. The human ships entered orbit, launched drop pods toward the surface, then jumped back to FTL to avoid counterfire. The pods screamed through Zorith Prime's atmosphere, their heat shields glowing white-hot. Maya felt the palace shake. Explosions echoed through the corridors. The energy barrier on her cell flickered and died as power systems failed. She stepped out cautiously, her heart pounding. Other prisoners emerged from their cells, confused and afraid. "What's happening?" a young Kesari asked. "Liberation," Maya said. She ran toward the armory, remembering the palace layout from years of study. Drop pods crashed into the Imperial District like meteors. Hatches blew open, and human soldiers emerged in powered armor, weapons ready. They moved with precision, following maps that Maya had provided years ago. Their mission was simple: reach the palace. Find the girl. Get out. Lieutenant Sarah Torres led Strike Team Alpha through the crystalline streets. Zora-T civilians fled at the sight of the humans, their fear palpable. Zora-T soldiers opened fire, their energy weapons splashing against human shields. "Return fire," Sarah ordered. Her team unleashed a barrage of kinetic rounds and plasma bolts. The Zora-T soldiers fell, their armor inadequate against weapons designed specifically to penetrate it. They reached the palace outer walls. Sarah planted a breaching charge and stepped back. The explosion tore a hole through solid stone. Strike Team Alpha poured through, engaging the palace guards in brutal close-quarters combat. Inside, Maya had reached the armory. She grabbed a plasma rifle, checked its charge and started moving toward the throne room. Other freed prisoners followed her, emboldened by her confidence. They encountered a squad of palace guards. Maya didn't hesitate. She opened fire, her shots precise despite her lack of formal training. The guards fell, shocked that a human child could move so fast, aim so accurately. "Maya Reeves." A voice boomed through her communicator, speaking English. "This is Lieutenant Torres, United Earth Forces. We're coming for you. What's your position?" Maya nearly cried. They spoke her language. They came in ships. They were fighting for her. "I'm heading to the throne room. I have unfinished business." "Negative, Maya. We extract you now." "Not yet," Maya said firmly. "I need to see the Emperor first." She reached the throne room doors and blasted them open. Emperor Thalan stood surrounded by his personal guards, his 4 eyes wide with disbelief. The sounds of battle echoed through the palace. His empire was crumbling. He breathed. "This is your doing. You brought them here." "I told you," Maya said, raising her weapon. "You should have killed me when you had the chance." Thalan's expression twisted with rage. "Kill her." The guards charged. But before Maya could fire, the wall exploded inward. Strike Team Alpha burst through, their weapons blazing. The guards fell in seconds. Sarah Torres stepped forward, placing herself between Maya and the Emperor. "Maya Reeves," Sarah said formally. "I'm taking you home." Maya lowered her weapon. For the first time in years she felt safe. "Okay." They extracted through the same breach, fighting their way back to the drop pods. Above them, the First Fleet held orbit, trading fire with Zora-T vessels. The battle was far from over, but humanity had won the most important objective. Maya was going home. The rescue of Maya Reeves sparked a war that consumed the galaxy. The Zora-T Empire, humiliated by humanity's bold strike on their capital, mobilized their full military might. 5,000 warships gathered at the edge of human space, preparing for total annihilation. Emperor Thalan addressed the Galactic Council from his repaired throne room. Representatives from 200 species watched via holographic projection as he spoke, his voice trembling with fury. "The humans have committed an act of war," he declared. "They violated our sovereign territory. They destroyed our ships. They freed dangerous criminals. This aggression cannot stand." The council murmured in agreement. Humanity was unknown to most of them, a species that had appeared seemingly from nowhere. If the Zora-T Empire said they were dangerous, who were they to disagree? But one voice dissented. Ambassador Quellen, Maya's former instructor, stood from the Kesari delegation. "I must speak against this action. I taught the human child. She was imprisoned unjustly. Her people came only to retrieve their own." "Silence," Thalan roared. "You forget your place, Quellen. The Kesari are subjects of this empire. You will support our decision or face consequences." Quellen sat down, but his eyes burned with resentment. He was not alone. Across the galaxy, conquered species watched and wondered. If humanity could strike the Empire's heart, perhaps others could too. On Earth, Maya stood before the UN General Assembly. She had been debriefed, examined, and celebrated. But now came the hard part. She had to tell humanity what was coming. "They're bringing everything," she said, her voice steady despite her youth. 5,000 warships. Orbital bombardment platforms. Bioweapons. The Zora-T don't just want to defeat us. They want to erase us." The assembly sat in stunned silence. Their First Fleet had 50 ships. The math was insurmountable. Admiral Webb stood beside Maya. "We knew this was coming. Kicking the hornet's nest has consequences. But I don't regret it. We showed the galaxy that humanity doesn't abandon its own." "Admiral," the UN Secretary-General said gravely, "how do we fight 5,000 ships with 50? Maya spoke before Webb could answer. "We don't fight them. We make them fight each other." Everyone turned to look at her. She was 16 now, tall and lean, with eyes that had seen too much. but her mind was sharper than ever. "Explain," the Secretary General said. Maya pulled up a holographic star map. "The Zorati Empire is held together by fear. 200 conquered species, all of them resentful, all of them waiting for an opportunity. We give them that opportunity. We show them that the Empire can bleed." "You're suggesting we start a rebellion," Admiral Webb said slowly. "I'm suggesting we light a fire," Maya corrected. "The Zorati are coming for Earth. While they're focused on us, we hit their supply lines. We free their conquered worlds. We give weapons and technology to anyone willing to fight. The Empire has too much territory to defend if everyone rises at once." The plan was audacious, insane, impossible by traditional military thinking. But humanity had never been traditional. "We don't have the resources," someone objected. Maya smiled. "Yes, we do. We have knowledge. Every conquered species needs just 3 things: hope, weapons, and a reason to fight. I can provide all 3. Over the next 6 months, humanity became the galaxy's most wanted arms dealers and revolutionaries. Small teams of humans in fast ships traveled to conquered worlds, making contact with resistance movements. They brought weapons designed from captured Zorati technology. They brought training. Most importantly, they brought Maya's message: the Empire can be beaten. On the Kesari homeworld, Ambassador Quellen received a coded transmission. It contained schematics for shield disruptors and a simple message: remember your teaching. Remember your student. Fight back. Quellen looked at the data for a long time. Then he began to spread it to others. On a mining colony in the Helax system, enslaved Dravani workers received weapon caches hidden in supply shipments. They rose up at midnight, overwhelming their Zorati overseers in a single bloody night. On the fortress world of Korriban, human operatives infiltrated and sabotaged the main power reactor. The explosion destroyed half the planet's defensive grid. The rebellion spread like wildfire. Within weeks, the Zorati Empire was fighting brushfire wars on 50 worlds. Their military was stretched thin, forced to divert ships from the Earth invasion fleet to suppress uprisings. Emperor Thalan watched reports flooding in with growing horror. "How?" he demanded. "How are they coordinating this? How do they move so quickly?" His intelligence officer provided the answer. "They're using quantum communication networks. Instantaneous transmission across all their networks. They can coordinate attacks across the entire galaxy in real time." "The human girl," Thalan said bitterly. "She gave them that technology too." "Yes, Majesty." Thalan slammed his fist on the throne. "Then we crush Earth now, before they can spread further. Launch the invasion. All ships. Hold nothing back." The Zorati fleet jumped to FTL, heading for Earth. 5,000 ships against one world. The largest military action in galactic history. As they traveled through the void, Admiral Webb watched them come on long-range sensors. "Here they come," he said quietly. "Is everything ready?" "Yes, sir," his tactical officer confirmed. "The network is in place." Maya stood beside him, no longer a child but a warrior. "This is where we win or lose everything." "No pressure," Webb said with a slight smile. Maya laughed. "We're human. Pressure is what we do best." The Zorati fleet emerged from FTL at the edge of Earth's solar system. 5,000 warships, each larger than a city, their weapons capable of glassing entire continents. They formed a battle line that stretched across millions of kilometers, a wall of metal and fury. On the bridge of his flagship Divine Wrath, Emperor Thalan gazed at the blue-green planet that had caused him such trouble. "No more games," he announced. "All ships advance. Destroy everything." The fleet moved forward like an avalanche. Their sensors detected the human fleet waiting near Mars. 150 ships, hastily built over the past months. Thalan laughed. Even with their new vessels, humanity was outnumbered 30-1. "They're actually going to fight," his tactical officer said in disbelief. "Let them," Thalan replied. "It will make their destruction more satisfying." The human fleet began to move. But instead of advancing to meet the Zorati, they scattered in all directions, breaking formation completely. Some ships dove toward Earth. Others accelerated toward the outer planets. A dozen jumped to FTL, vanishing entirely. "What are they doing?" Thalan demanded. His officer studied the displays in confusion. "I don't know. Their tactics make no sense. They're fleeing in random directions." "Then pursue them. All ships, break formation. Run them down." It was exactly what Maya had predicted. The Zorati fleet fractured, individual ships chasing human vessels that suddenly seemed panicked and disorganized. They pursued them through the asteroid belt, past Jupiter's massive form, into the deeper reaches of the solar system. Then the trap sprung. Hidden among the asteroids, disguised as space rocks, were 10,000 autonomous weapons platforms. They activated simultaneously, their targeting systems locking onto the scattered Zora-T ships. Missiles launched by the thousands, relativistic kill vehicles accelerated to impossible speeds, energy weapons blazed. The Zora-T fleet found itself in a crossfire. Ships exploded as missiles struck their engines. Shields failed under concentrated fire from multiple angles. The perfect formation had become a chaotic mess where Zora-T vessels couldn't fire without risking hitting their own allies. "It's an ambush," the tactical officer screamed. "The asteroids are armed. There are thousands of weapons platforms." Delon stared in horror. How? When did they have time to build all this? The answer was simple: they hadn't. Half the signatures were decoys, fake signals that mimicked real weapons. The Zora-T sensors couldn't tell the difference. They were shooting at ghosts while real threats closed in. Admiral Webb watched from the Indomitable, now hiding in Saturn's rings. Phase 2. Execute. Across the solar system, human ships stopped running. They turned and engaged, using tactics the Zora-T had never seen. A destroyer would jump to FTL, appear behind an enemy battleship, fire a full volley, then jump away before return fire could be coordinated. Frigates released clouds of microdrones that attached to Zora-T hulls and detonated, breaching armor and venting atmosphere. Lieutenant Sarah Torres commanded the carrier Defiant, launching fighters that moved in three-dimensional patterns the Zora-T couldn't predict. Her pilots were outnumbered, but they flew with creativity born from centuries of human aerial combat. They used planets for cover, slingshot maneuvers around moons, and suicide runs that took out ships 10 times their size. "They're adapting faster than our computers can calculate," a Zora-T ship captain reported to the LAN. "Every time we adjust tactics they change theirs. It's like fighting smoke." The LAN watched his fleet die piece by piece. 300 ships lost in the first hour. 500 in the second. The humans were taking casualties too, but far fewer than they should. Every trade favored them. "Withdraw," the LAN finally ordered, his voice bitter. "Pull back to the outer system. Regroup." But the humans didn't let them regroup. As the Zora-T tried to fall back, they found their FTL drives wouldn't engage. Gravity well modulators hidden throughout the solar system created overlapping fields that prevented faster-than-light travel. The Zora-T were trapped in a system that had become a death maze. Maya's voice suddenly broadcast across all frequencies, speaking in perfect Zora-T. "Emperor Thalon, you came to destroy my home. Instead you'll die here. We gave you a chance to leave us alone. You chose war. This is the consequence." "Impossible," Thalon whispered. "Your children. You've had space flight for barely a century. How can you fight like this?" "Because we had to," Maya replied. "Because you left us no choice. Because humans don't lie down and die. We learn. We adapt. We overcome. You taught me that, actually. You gave me access to your history, your tactics, your weaknesses. Thank you." The battle raged for 6 hours. When it ended, the Zora-T fleet was shattered. 3,000 ships destroyed or disabled. 2,000 retreating in disarray, jumping blindly to FTL as soon as they cleared the gravity wells, not caring about destination coordinates. Earth was saved. But the war was far from over. On Zorath Prime, the Emperor received reports of the disaster. His throne room fell silent. Every counselor, every advisor, every military officer understood the implications. The Zora-T Empire, undefeated for 10,000 years, had lost. To humanity. To one species they had dismissed as primitive. Across the galaxy, conquered worlds heard the news. Rebellions intensified. Zora-T authority collapsed on dozens of planets. The Empire was crumbling. And humanity was just getting started. The Galactic Council convened 6 months after the Battle of Sol. The chamber, built for the representatives of 200 species, had never been so full. But now they gathered not to discuss trade agreements or border disputes. They gathered to address the question that terrified them all. What do we do about humanity? Emperor Thalon looked diminished. His scales had lost their luster. His 4 eyes darted nervously. The once mighty ruler of the Zora-T Empire now commanded barely 50 star systems. The rest had broken away, liberated by human-supported rebellions or simply declaring independence while his fleet was destroyed. Ambassador Quellen of the Kesari stood to speak, his 6 limbs steady. "I propose we invite humanity to join this council as full members. They have proven themselves capable of interstellar travel, diplomacy, and unfortunately, war. We can no longer ignore them. The chamber erupted in debate. Some species supported the idea, grateful that humanity had freed them from Zorati oppression. Others feared what humanity might become if given power. They are too dangerous, a Vraxian representative hissed. They learn too quickly. Adapt too fast. They turned our own technology against us. That's the point, Quellen replied calmly. They could have destroyed us all. Instead, they freed conquered worlds. They shared technology. They sought liberation, not domination. That shows wisdom. Delan rose from his seat, his voice filled with venom. Do not be fooled. The humans are manipulators. They spread chaos deliberately. They armed rebellions, destroyed infrastructure, violated every law of civilized warfare. They are barbarians with starships. No, a new voice said. Every head turned. Maya Reeves walked into the chamber, flanked by Admiral Webb and a human diplomatic team. She wore a simple blue uniform with Earth's symbol, her posture confident despite being surrounded by beings who could crush her with ease. I was not invited to speak, Maya said, her voice amplified through the chamber's systems. But I'm speaking anyway. That's very human of me. This is outrageous, Delan sputtered. She's a criminal. A terrorist. She has no authority here. I have the authority of someone who survived your hospitality, Maya replied coldly. I spent 5 years in your palace, Emperor. I learned your language, your history, your secrets. And I learned one more thing. You rule through fear, not respect. She turned to address the full council. Humanity didn't want this war. We were exploring our own corner of space when the Zorati decided we were a threat. They quarantined our world. Killed anyone who tried to leave. They murdered my parents and took me prisoner. When I escaped and warned my people, the Empire mobilized to destroy Earth completely. We fought because we had no choice. You could have surrendered, a counselor suggested. Maya laughed bitterly. Humans don't surrender. Not when our home is threatened. Not when our children are taken. We fight. We adapt. We survive. That's what we do. It's what we've always done. Admiral Webb stepped forward. The United Earth government comes before this council with a formal proposal. We seek membership, yes. But more than that, we seek partnership. The Zorati Empire collapsed because it ruled through oppression. We propose something different, a true coalition. Species working together. Sharing knowledge. Defending each other. And if we refuse? Delan asked. Webb's expression hardened. Then we'll continue as we are. Earth will remain independent. We'll maintain our alliances with the liberated worlds. We'll defend ourselves if attacked. But we'd prefer cooperation to conflict. The council debated for hours. Finally, a vote was called. When the results appeared, they were decisive. 147 species voted to invite humanity to the council. Only 33 voted against, mostly former Zorati loyalists. It is decided, the council speaker announced. Humanity is recognized as a sovereign species with full council membership. Welcome, people of Earth. Maya felt tears in her eyes. She had left Earth as a child in chains. She returned as humanity's voice to the stars. But Delan wasn't finished. As the council adjourned, he approached Maya privately, his guards hovering nearby. You have won, he said quietly. But do you understand what you've done? You've shown the galaxy that the old order can be overthrown. You've planted seeds of chaos that will grow for centuries. Good, Maya said. The old order was rotten. It needed to fall. You speak like a revolutionary. But revolutionaries rarely enjoy the peace they create. Other species will see what humanity accomplished. They'll try to replicate it. There will be wars, upheaval, suffering. There was already suffering, Maya countered. The difference is now there's also hope. People can choose their own paths instead of following yours. Delan stared at her for a long moment. You have become everything I feared. Not because you are violent, but because you are free. And freedom is contagious. I learned from the best, Maya said. You taught me how empires fall, Emperor. You just didn't realize you were teaching me to topple yours. Delan turned and walked away, his guards following. Maya watched him go, feeling no triumph. Just exhaustion. The war had cost millions of lives. Earth had lost ships and soldiers. But they had survived. They had won. Admiral Webb placed a hand on her shoulder. How are you holding up? I'm tired, Maya admitted. I just want to go home. See Earth again. Walk in a park without guards. Be normal. You'll never be normal, Webb said gently. You're the girl who changed the galaxy. But you can go home. Rest. Let others carry the burden for a while. Maya nodded. She looked out through the chamber's massive viewport at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there was Earth, blue and green and beautiful. Her home. She had left it as a prisoner. She returned as a hero. But more than that, she returned as a reminder: humanity could not be caged, could not be controlled, could not be broken. The galaxy had learned that lesson at great cost. 3 months later, Maya stood in a park in Vancouver watching children play. No guards. No aliens. Just grass and trees and laughter. Admiral Webb had been right. She would never be normal. But for this moment she could pretend. Her communicator chimed. A message from the UN. Council delegation requests your presence for negotiations with the Andromedan cluster representatives. Maya smiled and typed back, I'll be there next week. Give me a few more days of normal first. She sat on a bench and watched the sunset. The stars were beginning to appear, brilliant and infinite. Once, humanity had looked at them with wonder and hope. Then they learned to look with caution and fear. Now they looked with confidence. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers and wonders. But humanity had proven something essential: they belonged there. Not as subjects or curiosities but as equals. As survivors. As the species that refused to give up. Maya closed her eyes and felt the evening breeze. Somewhere above, human ships patrolled the Sol system. Beyond them, alliances were forming. Technologies were being shared. A new age was beginning. And it had all started with one lost human kid who refused to be forgotten. The aliens had made their greatest mistake. They had tried to cage humanity. Now the cage was broken. And the galaxy would never be the same.